감사합니다.
You'll regret this.
Yeah, that about covers it.
The Flash. Arguably the world's greatest superhero. With an endless plethora of superpowers that are just as diverse as a modern day liberal Hollywood documentary that takes a shite on historical events that happen to an exclusively homogeneous culture and changes the cast to make them more woke. It's no wonder that 8-year-old handsome Karim wanted what this guy's got. With abilities such as running faster than a speeding bullet, running faster than the speed of sound, running faster than the speed of Usain Bolt on steroids, running faster than the speed... Alright, I think it's pretty clear that this guy can run very fast. As a kid, I desperately wanted Flash's powers so bad that I even went as far as to recreate the accident that gave him them. I visited my Uncle Charlie, who, for the sake of this video, let's just say was a bit of a chemist, and ended up collecting his leftover pharmaceuticals that were originally meant for disposal due to their hazardous nature, and took it upon myself to use them to help me in my quest to be able to move faster than Joe Biden's caretaker. Anytime they have to catch him whilst he collapses when randomly falling asleep during walking, driving, or sleepwalking. Poor bastard. Once I set myself up in my private castle in the middle of Glasgow. Yes, I was very rich growing up, so no need to do a background check on that, let's just move along. All that was missing was some thunder and lightning. I wonder where and how am I going to get terrible weather in Scotland of all places? This might take a long while. Anyways, after exactly 7 minutes, a thunderstorm came about. It was the fourth one that day, so boy, I sure was lucky, wasn't I? I got hit with lightning, and all those chemicals that promised to give me access to the Speed Force ended up being baby powder, dried dice anchovy, and Pocari Sweat.
負けない水。イオンサプライ。ポカリスエット。
With traces of Colombian coke. So it turns out, instead of becoming the Flash, I became Glasgow Man. Instead of becoming super fast, I ended up becoming slow as fuck. And whereas Flash sees people move at the speed of a snail, I somehow managed to be even slower than that when most normal people were observing me.
It's Kettering, Kai.
I also smelled a lot like a baby wrapped in an anchovy pizza, so I guess you could say Glasgow Man was a success. I mean, I managed to stop young promising students from going to university and instead recruited them to sell baby powder to drug addicts in order to keep them safe from the terror of the modern day British school system. The drug addicts also ended up doing quite well.
Cup of coffee, man, yeah. Man! Wow, man!
As they kicked their drug habits and instead had softer, smoother skin around their upper lip and nose area. It was all great until one of the addicts tried to snort a baby.
I don't give a fuck.
That is when Glasgow Man done him a solid and beat his nose off with a wrench. Ah, what a hero 8-year-old me was. Like I said at the beginning of this video, that was the kind of influence that Wally Allen and Barry West had on me growing up. Good times, times good. So as you can imagine, I was over the fake moon landing when I found out that Flash is getting his own movie. And even more happy when I found out Ezra Miller was to star in it. Cause he's one of the best actors ever. Just look at him here, acting like a confused prick.
Tell me your name and your badge number. Tell me your name and your badge number now.
Only to do nothing short of a pretty decent job, if I'm honest, at least with what he was given script-wise. And this is where my overall opinion comes in. Not that you asked, but I'm going to share it anyway. The Flash is a bit of a weak movie, with a good few pretty cool moments in it. That is really the best way that I can describe it, to be honest. Maybe me not being well versed in commentary videos is the reason that I'm not able to articulate a more discernible and coherent opinion. Or maybe it's just my lack of creativity after partying at a stranger's house for the last 6 nights. Like, seriously, how the fuck did I end up in Bulgaria? Either way, I can't really summarize it better than that, but I will try to explain why I think it is so. So strap into your strap-ons as we strive to stride the strip at super speeds. Seriously, why did I wake up in Sofia? At least I didn't fall asleep with Sofia and me. At least not this time. Before we begin, I think it is needless to say that there's going to be spoilers ahead, but if I'm honest, you're not missing out on too much. The thrill is not worth holding back the kill, and this is coming from a huge Flash fan. So let's begin with the basic premise for this movie. But first, here's a quick word from our sponsor. Oh wait, I don't have one. Well, in that case, check out this cool charity for pets. The link is in the description. So everything starts off with Ben Affleck's Batman whilst he's chasing a bunch of criminals who've stolen some type of compound that either creates Bane-like super soldiers or can be used as some sort of exoplasma to trap ghosts or, I don't know, kill Superman. To be honest, I can't be arsed to go and do a refresh read up on Wikipedia, so like with the suitcase in Pulp Fiction, you're just going to have to use your imagination. At this point, we are introduced to Affleck's Batman being a little bit more, I'd say, useful and badass than what he was in the Justice League movie. After all that went on, it was actually quite nice to see Ben don the cape one last time. Now shortly before this, we see everyone's favourite superhero, your friendly neighbourhood speedster man, trying to buy a bagel off a barista / sandwich maker who is balls slow, just like me in math class. This is when Bart Wally Allen gets a call from Jarvis, letting him know that the Iron Bat is out saving the world and can't be at 2 disastrous locations at once. So he demands the Flash help out in the second location where George Kilmer's Batman is not, and save people from a hospital building, I think it was. And for some reason, that fucking building is taller than the Taipei 101 building in Taiwan. This is where we see the Flash suit up, and it's also the intro to the film, which is not bad. He then arrives at the building that's collapsing. I think it's collapsing due to an earthquake, or I don't know, because Solomon Grundy farted or something. I don't remember, but I do remember Flash being super hungry and moaning constantly because he never got his French cheese bagel with cherry tomatoes and cucumbers in it. Seriously, what a pussy. Anyways, the building starts to tilt and babies start to fly out the window. Like 6 or 7 of these little Chucky lookalikes, as we start to see glass splinters from a vending machine close into the children as they shite themselves. Not because they're scared or anything, but you know, because they're babies. So as this orphanage or whatever it is collapses, we could get the chance to see Flash do the right thing, which is run away so those diaper wearing disasters, and I don't mean Joe Biden, continue to fall, and then he goes and helps Batman fight some real crime against some real cool criminals. Yeah! Alright, Tom Cruise. Instead, we are treated to Flash running towards the babies, only to run past them and grab himself some chalky biscuits from the vending machine. Finally, a hero Glasgow man would consider teaming up with. Unfortunately, he charges himself up. He's wearing a watch that can follow his metabolism faster than the Flash can run, so, you know, okay. Only for the Flash to then run and save the babies with the sole intent of raising them up to be his slaves and minions.
Way too hostile and specific.
Oh wait, we're talking about the character, not the actor. Ugh. Come on, Karim, separate and don't discriminate. So this is it, Flash's big moment on screen. Remember, Black Adam had a cool moment in slow motion in which he mutilated an entire military force. Quicksilver had a crazy epic scene in which he saves an entire school of mutants. Goldfish, dogs, hairstyles alike. So it is understandable that the bar is set very high, right? Pressure is on. The balls have been shriveled in anticipation of epicness. This scene is going to bring change into our lives after all. And I believe that if someone can live up to the hype, it's going to be the world's most favourite speedster. After Sonic, of course. God, I love that hedgehog. So, what do we get in Flash's big moment? Let's just say it left me as disappointed as my last blind date was when she finally met me. And the fact that she was actually blind should let you know how ugly I am. But I argue that I'm still better looking than that scene was. Okay, it wasn't that terrible. And at least we saw a dog get saved. Oh shit, yeah, the babies got saved too. But compared to the previously mentioned scenes, it just felt subpar. The others had a good build up and great music to go with it. And although this one had humour in it, it just didn't leave me feeling that anything particularly creative was offered. However, I was still in good spirits by then because I was just happy to be sitting by myself in a Flash movie. Yeah, I'm that lonely, deal with it. So I decided to give the rest of the movie a chance before I stormed out of the cinema same way I came in, through the women's bathroom window on the second floor. I'm not going to state any further comments about that, so don't ask. As the movie continues, we see Flash contact his father, who's currently in jail awaiting trial for a crime that he apparently didn't commit, killing Flash's mother. They don't really add anything new to this portion of the story, apart from the fact that he isn't calling Dr. Manhattan Daddy any longer. Instead, Ron Livingston takes over this honour, and he does seem more like a TV Flash's dad, whom I personally liked. Other than that, everything else is pretty much the same. This has been replayed so often in TVs, movies and comic books that I'm starting to think this trial will never end, or start even. He'll probably die before he gets out of prison. This is similar to how we are constantly shown Bruce Wayne's parents dying. It helps first time viewers orientate themselves in their emotions, so I guess that's something. I should mention that Batman, or Alfred, had apparently done some detective work, and they're sorry to report back to the Flash that they have no solid evidence that Henry Allen did not kill his wife. At this point, the Flash gets all wincey and crybaby, and I'm starting to think that maybe his dad didn't kill his mother. Could have been suicide after she realised what a little bitch she's responsible for giving birth to. So this is where Barry finally breaks down as he starts to run so fast that he tears through the fabric of time and space by entering into the Speed Force, which unexpectedly looks like Fleischer Studios developed the movie's artwork with all the surreal and jazzy looking layers we see. I actually thought it looked pretty unique, but at the same time, I can also understand why so many people have been criticising the special effects that were used to create the Speed Force, as it was a little bit underwhelming compared to some of the examples we've seen in the comics. It looked like some leftover unused code from a CUPHEAD game. I also don't remember reading a Flash comic that depicted the Speed Force like the one we've seen in the movie. However, maybe there's an old Flash comic with a rubber hose influence style that I simply haven't read yet, so do feel free to correct me in the comment section, you detail Nazi you. In the next scene, we see Barry speak to Bruce about his experience, asking for Wayne's advice on the matter. As to be expected, he is warned by Bat Nipples not to mess about with the forces of nature that he cannot yet control. It's solid advice, and they do share a good moment on screen when Ben Assface tells Barry No Nuts how painful it was to lose his own parents, but reminds him that it was because of this he became the man he is today. Broken, lonely, sad, paranoid, a vigilant cosplayer who likes to dress up like a giant flying rodent and smash up superheroes, and then he goes about resurrecting them after they've been murdered. Yeah, I think it's around here that Barry realises it's not a good idea to run back into the past and change everyone's lives for the better. The moment ends on a somewhat sad note. Barry asks Bruce if he wants to go and get something to eat. Bruce answers, "Not today," as he then drives off in his Bruce-mobile. I had a feeling while sitting in the cinema, all by myself, because I'm a lonely bastard, that this would lead somewhere. I thought it would end up leading to a wholesome moment between the two at the end of the movie. I pictured Bruce fighting off some weird threat, then looking over to Barry and telling him, "It's about time to go and grab that pineapple pizza."
Trust me, I can afford it.
You know, something like that. And as cheesy as that may sound, I would have been okay with that. However, we don't really see a moment like that in the movie, which I find was a missed opportunity. Maybe we see it in a director's cut, I don't know, but it seemed like a chance to build up an Iron Man-Spider-Man relationship, which would have been pretty cool, but whatever. What happens next may even be the result of Bruce blowing off Barry, and it could be that the writers wanted us to feel that on a subconscious level, or I'm just making excuses for shitty writing. We see Flash get ready to run into the past, and as he does, he runs back into a point in time that is just before his mother's murder. Before he can exit the Speed Force with grace, he's sucker punched by what looks to be a cheap Doomsday Speedster rubber fusion dummy. This causes him to fly out of the Speed Force and land on his behind a couple of meters outside his parents' doorstep. After seeing his mum, he has a heartfelt reunion with her, and I have to admit, it was a tearjerker. Not necessarily for her, she's probably thinking, what kind of drugs is my son on?
Knock you out, and then you won't have to panic.
Right, you just gotta knock
You just
people
let me
out.
know.
Yeah.
No? Yes?
What?
But for us, the audience, who knew what this meant to Barry, you can't help but feel for him. Whilst Barry is having lunch or dinner with his parents, he sees his younger self approaching the house in fashionably late style. So he uses his power of super fast thought and super fast problem solving to think of an epic excuse to be excused from the dinner table.
You got a shit!
He then runs out to grab his younger self, who kinda acts like how I would imagine Ezra Miller acts in his real life on a daily basis.
Did you want to fight? Is that the deal?
Whoa, bro.
Complete and utter moron who has no sense of responsibility whatsoever. That being said, we have two Ezra Millers acting opposite one another, which allows us to see how far the mature Barry has actually came when it comes to being more confident, smarter, and, well, braver. He's no longer the guy who just runs very fast and then gently pushes someone away. I've just pushed some people and run away.
Whoa, bro.
This is a guy who understands his powers a lot better and knows how to utilize them the best way possible. Still an idiot for going into the past though. Then for some reason that I can't seem to remember, Barry needs younger Barry to help him access the Speed Force, so he decides to take him to the police station or laboratory where he got his powers almost a decade ago. Both Barrys end up having a tussle as younger Barry finds out that he needs to get electrocuted first in order to become a speed monster.
Oh my god, that's my boss, bingo!
Now, older Barry could use his powers to subdue him, but instead they start to push and shove each other like how you would expect Ezra Miller to fight off a baby in real life. So now they both struggle a little, and the lightning strike causes powerless Barry become powerful Barry, and at the same time it causes powerful Barry to become fucking useless Barry. So that's how it works. Does that mean if Hulk gets hit by another gamma rays, he's going to lose all his powers? Or if Daredevil gets green slime in his eyes, he'll be able to see again? Oh well, let's move on. Barry now needs to start monitoring the younger Barry and teach him how not to become the next A-Train and start turning people into soup. It is here that we are introduced to the alien hostile takeover by none other than Kryptonian General Zod. Wow, it sure is lucky that we got an additional Flash 5 minutes before, whilst at the same time losing another Flash for reasons that escape me. I mean, God forbid the writers were to introduce Zod first, so that the superpowered Barry would actually have a reason and a catalyst as to why he would want Barry number 2 to receive the same superpowers. I'm pretty sure there's a reason in there somewhere, I just don't care to remember, so slander me in the comments and share the reason with me. This is when Barry thinks it would be a good idea to get the gang together. He decides to reach out to the non-existing Justice League that have now never been born or superpowered up in this alternate reality / timeline. To his surprise, however, there does seem to be a Batman, and this is truly one of the highlights of the movie that was great but could have also been done a little bit better. The two Barrys head to Wayne's Manor, and at first glance it looks like the Joker's been living there for the past couple of years whilst forgetting to pay his house cleaner's wage. There's even some weird portraits that I guess show how batshit bored Bruce has been. It is here that we get to see Bruce Wayne, the Bruce Wayne from Tim Burton's Batman from 1989. A fun fact, that was the same movie that inspired Super Nintendo's racing game F-Zero.
You won't believe the power, the curves, or the feeling you get until you experience it for yourself.
It starts off with Michael Keaton being a little ninja creeping up behind both Barrys to put a beating on them. However, he can't land a single punch on superpowered Barry. And this is the part that I felt the writers could have done better. Now call me a crybaby or a snowflake, but there is no way that I am bringing Michael Keaton back after 30 plus years and not allowing him to at least have one crack at each of Ezra's faces using Bat-Jitsu. Speed beats power, anticipation beats speed, and deception beats anticipation. So with that logic, Batman is 2 levels above fresh-faced floppy Flash, yet he doesn't land a single punch on him. Instead, he ends up giving him his badly cooked spaghetti. And all this while he ends up explaining the multiverse like a fucking genius to a fucking speedster with 10 years experience who is as shocked and stunned as I am when I actually step on the dead insects my cats bring me as gifts to make me feel better about being a broke ginger bitch with 3 teeth missing. Anyway, they try to track down Superman, and with the help of the Batcomputer and with Batman's detective skills, they find out that a Kryptonian pod was reportedly discovered in Siberia, which I think is a nod to the Red Sun comic. This is where we get a proper introduction to Batman, and a first piece of dialogue dialogue that I'm not going to criticise because it ends up allowing Michael Keaton to say his famous words, "I am Batman." The three of them take a bat-plane ride in first class to go to Siberia to break into a facility where they believe that Superman is being held. Here we see some great action, and here Keaton has his own unique style, and what we see ends up looking epic. They end up fighting their way through a pod, only to find a female locked inside, who turns out to be Superman's cousin, Kara Zor-El. Here Batman, uncharacteristically, shares his intent to leave her behind because she isn't Superman. The Flash, however, the original one, who's now without superpowers, feels that she is worth saving. This is not because he's had the experience that Batman can be a totally different person in the timeline, and by logic, so too could Superman, but because he just felt it was the right thing to do, and you should always be nice to people. Now that's great and all, but my issue here is that I think that was kind of one of the lessons that the Batman from his timeline was originally trying to teach him. In the Justice League movie, we hear Batman tell him,
Save one.
What?
Save one person.
And here, Tim Burton's Batman is basically like, nah, fuck it, let's go and get tacos. So good for you, Ezra Miller.
I film myself when I get assaulted for NFT crypto art. What's your name? What's your badge number? Tell me your name and your badge number.
Flash. Damn it, Karim. Separate. Anyway, it is here where we see the second awesome action scene take place within the past 10 minutes. Supergirl is taken outside to the sunlight, and here her body observes the rays of the sun super fast. And I mean like really super fast. And this is while Batman gets ready to punch some Russian faces because they remind him of Putin, whilst at the same time, surprise surprise, both Flashes are fucking useless. Now we have Batman and Supergirl producing a great choreographed fight scene. But technically, Supergirl shouldn't be doing so at all. You see, it took Superman years, if not decades, to master his powers. And General Zod took quite a while and quite a beating until he was able to adapt and recognize the full extent of his ability. And he was a soldier that had traveled throughout the universe and exposed his body to all different types of conditions, with the focus of becoming a killer machine. But here, Supergirl is able to become Brightburn's older, hotter sister within 3 seconds. Anyway, in this timeline of non-existent continuity, there is only one thing missing before the big battle with Zod. Barry has no powers, and, as you do, he plans on electrifying himself in the Batcave. That's going to be fun. Here we see something pretty weird. He wants to be electrified multiple times, despite his plan obviously not working and getting him his powers back. And we see Michael Keaton think to himself, what the fuck am I doing, and why haven't they modified the script for this to make more sense? I mean, I'm obviously happy playing Batman again because I haven't shut up about it for the past 3 decades, but at least try to take a page out of Flash Paradox's book and do it the way they did it. But no, he ends up zapping Barry in the balls until he becomes unconscious, or dead, I don't know which, until Supergirl comes back after having a hissy fit and grabs burnt corpse Barry off an electrical chair that would make the state of Texas proud and flies him up into the sky so that he can be electrocuted one more time, but this time without the batch of chemicals surrounding him that originally turned him into the Flash. And for some reason, this works apparently better than the right dose of chemicals surrounding you. Somehow the final step was the necessity of Supergirl taking you up into the sky on a rainy day for a fly around. I don't know. And at this point, I really don't care. I'm just excited to see the battle that's coming up. So now we officially have 4 heroes. An unexperienced Supergirl who is more powerful than any Kryptonian I've ever seen within 3 seconds of being exposed to the sun. Tim Burton's Batman, and 2 annoying Flashes that are going to go into battle with an experienced Kryptonian military. Well, they better have a trick up their sleeve, otherwise I'm throwing my unwashed Flash underwear out of the same window I found them hanging from. The men's urine-stained washroom in the cinema's 4th floor. Experienced Flash immediately has to guide unexperienced Flash on how to use his powers in battle. He explicitly says that they cannot beat the Kryptonians because they are far too strong, but they are faster, and immediately contradicts himself by literally going up to a Kryptonian and murdering him in cold blood. I don't know what the writers were thinking in regards to the dialogue, but that scene was pretty epic. Also, quick side note, when Flash was running up to angry Superman who was resurrected from the dead, what in God's earth was his endgame? Was he going to run up to a massive Kryptonian who's holding Aquaman and Wonder Woman with one arm each and tickle him? Now, This is both a really cool compilation of fight scenes that are great, but at the same time could have been done better. The special effects are a little bit weak, and there is no reason not to be even more creative with Flash's superpowers. They don't feel that they went all out with them. But like I said, there's a cool compilation of small battles here and there that are pretty fun. However, it's Batman who steals the show. He has two distinct battles that I thought were amazing. One is in the Batplane. Here we see him operating a more unsafe aircraft than United usually do. And no, that wasn't a reference to Manchester United's 1958 plane crash. That would be tasteless. No, I'm talking about the shameless airline with a ton of staff that were laid off because they refused to share their medical records. Now that's tasteless. Anyways, the Batplane fight scene is awesome, and it's even better than the one where Will Smith slapped aliens into rocks in Independence Day for talking about his wife. But there is a scene after this that makes the fanboy in me want to remain a virgin for the rest of his life, just so he can stay in his grandmother's basement reading comics all day. Tim Burton's Batman takes on Zack Snyder's Kryptonian, the giant one, single-handedly, and kicks the living shit out of him. This scene is short but super sweet. It was just a pleasure to watch, and I enjoyed seeing Michael Keaton's comeback for such an epic cinematic treat. But then he does get his chest crushed in and dies, so yeah, that's not cool. Anyways, after Supergirl proves what we all feared, she was absolutely useless against Zod and his gang, despite developing her powers at an alarming rate that was much faster than that of any of the other Kryptonians we've ever seen before in this universe. The two Flashes try to run back in time and resurrect both Supergirl and Batman, so that they would have another shot at beating Zod's army. After trying this a couple of times, mature not so dumb Barry realizes that there is no way in hell that they can save anyone, and he tries to convince dumber, but only by a slight margin, Barry, that this is not the way, and basically that they're doomed. History just keeps repeating itself. Now, I don't know why this is true, so maybe someone can clarify this in the comment section, but as far as I understood, every time they go back into the past, they're actually going back into a different reality, hence the multiverse that Keaton explained earlier on. If that's not true, then they could just keep going back until they find a solution, or they could just go back early enough and observe the events, and they would eventually collect enough data on how to beat General Zod, and they could give that data to Batman, who with his technical capacity and tactical wisdom could come up with a plan to destroy the Kryptonians. For example, they could use Supergirl as bait to lure Zod out and then go in for the big kill. This way they would distort his army and then pick them off one by one. But whatever, I wasn't hired to write this movie. I must have fallen asleep at the part of the movie where the logical connection and the paradox conundrums are proven to run through the same funnel as they did at the beginning of it, because here the Experience Flash shows up as a Doomsday toy Flash / the Flash from earlier on, and claims that he is in fact unexperienced Flash, but from the future. He's been trying for infinity to get back into the right timeline to fix things. Now, despite his appearance, this would actually mean that Doomsday Flash is not that great of a threat and not that strong, because for years now, an infinite amount of years, he's been getting his ass handed to him by the Kryptonians, only to stubbornly run back into time a couple of minutes before it happens and try again and again and again.
I can fix everything!
And nobody seems to be taking him seriously. And I thought that if he keeps doing this, he would run into multiple past versions of himself. But this doesn't seem to be the case either. His main motivation or reason for existence seems to be that he's hell-bent on fixing things, which is pretty sad if you think about it, because he would have never been in this paradox if it wasn't for future smart Barry, and if he would have just left him alone. But then again, I think his universe would have been doomed anyway, because without him there, the humans wouldn't have even been able to put up a fight in the first place. However, that also doesn't seem to help. Well, instead of coming to that conclusion as fast as I did, he instead reaches a weird epiphany and thinks to himself, if I kill Smart Flash, all of these problems go away. And as he tries to do so, Dumb Flash, aka Inexperienced Flash, sacrifices himself, thus killing both him and somehow at the same time wiping out weird I'm an emo, I like punishment Flash from the timeline. But at the same time, the Middle Flash, aka the smartest out of the three idiots, I'm your Karim movie reference right there, survives.
Not how the Speed Force works. Yes.
I think that's how I remembered it happening, and I don't know why, because I'm sure the writers must have came up with something smarter than that. So if they did, leave a comment in the comment section and feel free to troll me. I don't know, but it seems that the casual loop paradox just got thrown out of the window, or I seriously wasn't paying attention. So at this point, our so-called hero, the Flash, sets everything back the way it was, using his awkward running style that looks like he's suffering from diarrhea underwater and a tomato can. But before doing so, he has one last heartfelt moment with his mother. And to be honest, this was really well played out. It's well paced, and it's a beautiful moment between the actress who plays his mother, who gives off a caring vibe, and the actor who plays Flash.
Killing children is never okay.
Yeah.
No? Yes?
What?
Now, before I wrap up the rest of the story, I must point out that we were treated to an absolute highlight. A highlight that I have not yet experienced or seen in any other of the DC movies. Here, we get fan service galore. We were treated to a couple of seconds of Nicolas Cage's Superman.
That's Mr. Nicolas Cage. Unfortunately, I hear that this Flash movie really sucks.
As he fights off a giant metal spider. We see the legend Christopher Reeves together on screen with his cousin. We see Adam West and many, many more iconic moments and characters. And it's ironic because I didn't see Henry Cavill anywhere, but you know, that's DC for you. This is breaking the fourth wall. This is speaking to us directly as the viewer and reminding us all of the years of joy and inspiration that these great heroes and actors have given us over decades. It touched a nerve with me that made me very happy and sad at the same time. I felt like I was almost going to cry, but I also felt like it didn't belong in the movie because it was too much of a direct message. I felt this world had been stripped from its boundaries and lenses, and that its walls had been taken down. And we now know that we are watching a movie and that we are paying homage to other movies and other portrayals of these amazing characters from TV and radio, rather than immersing ourselves in an experience. But at the same time, it itself was an experience that I found to be breathtaking. However, don't take my word for it. I'm the guy who cried at a Norwegian Kit Kat commercial. At the end of the movie, we expect the hero to have grown and to have become stronger, a better version of themselves than what they were at the beginning of the movie. Does this happen with our boy Flash? Fuck no! He decides right at the end of the movie that it's a good idea to do one last run back into the past, setting his dad free. Well, unfortunately, this is where he really fucks up. Because now he's introduced us to freaking handsome George Bat Nipples Clooney in the Flashverse. Yep, as I said, this is where he really messed up. Oh, and did I mention how handsome George Clooney is? Sexy Irish bastard. Ultimately, they made a mockery out of this movie because the idea behind it was to reset the Flash and the whole entire DC universe. The problem was that whilst they were making this movie, so many changes happened behind the scenes that they had to do rewrites, and during the movie, they actually had to start considering doing recasts, one of which would have been Flash himself. The fan service here is kind of like makeup on a girl that doesn't wash her face. Sure, she looks all done up, but she smells like fish and sweeties, so you're not really going to give her a cuddle. I always felt that whatever property you have, there's always the potential to make a great movie. Only if you look at the common denominator of most great movies, which is a good, solid story. The story itself doesn't even have to be that great, but if the actors know what they're working with, as well as the director, then they can work towards putting in great performances, directing the special effects department, working with the legal department, which in Miller's case seems to be a big necessity. Chemistry can be a lot better, and so on. I'm happy that the Flash movie got made. I think, however, moving forward, their best bet is just to restart the whole thing, not just partially, but completely. And if they want to reintroduce Michael Keaton's Batman, yes, I'd contradict myself and say, sure, I'm down for that crazy looking General Zod guy as well. We know Michael Shannon can deliver, but as far as the main cast go in this Magnificent Seven, I don't think we're ever going to see an expansion on what the Snyderverse could have been. And I think at this point, everyone who was involved in the original project is just so tired with the back and forth that they want to move forward, even if they got hefty paychecks. Because let's face it, Henry Cavill isn't exactly short of work right now, right? Anyways, that was my little inaccurate summary. I hope you enjoyed this video of mine. If you do, please consider checking out some other content. Maybe leave a comment, a like, or if you like, join one of my live streams. Let's talk about DC, Marvel, and everything else. If you want to support the channel, there are links in the description on where you can get the microphone so you can sound as disgustingly sexy as I do. And also PayPal. Thanks so much for watching. Hit it, J-Hop!
감사합니다.